Hey everybody, C-Note here, and I help INTPs connect to themselves and the universe through personality typology. We also have a podcast called Dopamine, where you can tap into your mental health, creativity, and personality through that podcast. So dopamine.life, link in the description. Today I wanted to talk about helping my fellow INTPs understand why maybe some of our parents, some of our peers, and ourselves can sometimes confuse ourselves for having a mood disorder or a psychological disorder like ADHD or bipolar disorder or something like that. One of the tricky feelings behind that is that our nature is a bit dichotomous. I think everybody has the introvert and extrovert side of them, but as introverts, we're sort of pushed into the outside world because we don't mesh really well with the outside world, at least not naturally. We definitely have to be pushed to fit in with the outside world a little bit more. It can be a challenge for someone else to see that that is normal, right? I think every personality type has a version of normal, but in terms of the grand scope of culture and society and what school expects of you, what people expect of you, INTPs are definitely not normal in relation to social constructs or contracts. So it can be a challenge to figure out how we really fit into that. And one of the real reasons that we are confused for that is that because even with ourselves, well, we'll kind of take it twofold. So with our parents or with society, again, we don't really fit in very well. And we're not really supposed to. That's kind of the purpose of being an INTP, is that we are sort of ahead of the pack. We are almost the stock car of personality types, in that we're forging ahead, trying to theorize and understand the scope of the universe and reality and all of that stuff. We're not necessarily always grounded in realism. We are using a lot of thinking to understand how things work, but our heads are in the clouds. We're thinking about the meanings of things, the why behind the why. And that means practical things are a challenge. It can be a challenge for even us taking care of ourselves or thinking about ourselves, right? So that becomes like a real frustration to parents who feel like they just want their kids to have friends, and they want their kids to do good in school, and they want their kids to just be, some sort of societal, idealistic version of how they can fit in. And that just really comes to the ignorance of the idea that people just generally don't understand personality types. They don't understand that humans can be different. And if they can't understand that humans can be different, especially not INTPs, then it's easy to feel like they should force us into some sort of a bucket or box to just kind of like, put a square peg in a round hole, in a sense. So there's a lot of society that ends up pushing us towards that. And it's good in a lot of ways. It's actually healthy for us to get pushed into extroverted situations. It's healthy for us to learn how to manage ourselves and take care of ourselves and take care of our bodies and nurture aspects of our inferior functions, right? It's, we're not just supposed to nurture a world in which we get to be in the clouds all the time. We need to find ways to actually feed ourselves and take care of ourselves and take care of our families. That's like absolutely, that's just part of existence, and we have to adapt to that. So, and it's frustrating because we want the world to adapt to us in the way that we have to adapt to it. But everybody has versions of things that they have to adapt to. So it's not just INTPs. Don't feel bad about that at all. So I want you to think also about why we may think that we're confusing ourselves with someone who might have an identity disorder or a mood disorder of some kind. And well, that it does stem from the confusion and the idea that we've been fed this narrative that we are different than other people. And, we are different, but the narrative that we are broken in some kind of way, that we don't fit into society, and that's a bad thing, that can lead us to feeling that about ourselves. So it's important to separate those two ideas, because really, if you understand the intent of the person who nurtured you in that way to just kind of help you try to fit in, then you can kind of let go of them, doing it in a villainous kind of way, because that's not really what their intention was, right? If you understand that they're just trying to push you, that's totally fine and that's okay. So separate that idea, because now you as an individual growing up, being older in society and doing what you have to do to live and exist, you're kind of wrestling with this fact of like, okay, what is making me feel like I have a mood disorder or bipolar or ADHD? And there's a lot of aspects of our personality that overlap with symptoms and ideas that come from ADHD and come from bipolar disorder. So I'm going to talk about ADHD first, and then I'll talk about bipolar disorder. There are a couple different kinds of ADHD. There's inattentive ADHD, and then there's hyperactive ADHD. I think it's called hyperactive, but it's basically the traditional ADHD. And for us, it can kind of manifest either way. You can be a little bit inattentive in the fact that you just maybe miss sensory details, like not noticing literally what's in front of you because our head is just so naturally in the clouds. Or you can be hyperactive because maybe there's an aspect of your extroverted intuition that needs unlocking and you just kind of feel antsy and you can't get the satisfaction that you need. So the tricky part is like ADHD is more of a consistent clinical feeling and a consistent clinical chemical challenge, right? So getting that checked out with a therapist and not just self-diagnosing, which I know an INTP is prone to do, and certainly go down a deeper rabbit hole of understanding what is clinical versus what is you. And those separations can be really powerful for you growing up and going forward, right? So, and then the bipolar side of it, I do have cyclothymia. I have a low-grade bipolar disorder that comes in cycles once every 3 months, or if it's triggered by my circadian rhythm being thrown off or extreme stress. And that is chemical. Those are things that I cannot control, getting out of bed and feeling all of those symptoms that are separate from my personality. Now, a lot of the times my mental illness is, I have inattentive ADHD, and then I also have cyclothymia. Those things are accentuations of my personality, meaning that my mania, when I'm in cyclothymia, gets accentuated or accentuates my extroverted intuition. Whereas with different personality types, as far as I've studied and known, that different mood disorders will accentuate different parts of different personalities. So an ENTJ might have their introverted intuition be flared up, and that might result in them just babbling random words or basically saying every thought that they have. So it potentially could show up differently. Now, this is not a clinical study. This is something that I've just been noticing myself. But for INTPs, that can show up through extroverted intuition. And for me, it was like risky behavior and letting loose and letting go. So it really depends on the level of it, right? Because my risky behavior was my version of suicidal tendencies. So that's very different than just being like random and crazy, right? This is all in relation to deep-seated, difficult things that you have to work through in life. So that's the difference, essentially, is when you have a mood disorder versus just being your personality is like, yeah, some INTPs have a challenge with being happier a lot of the time. Some INTPs have a challenge with feeling good about themselves, with a sense of confidence. But then there are INTPs that also who could be clinically diagnosed with something, and there's something chemical going on, and that there's something maybe traumatic from their past going on. And the point of all of this is that if you feel like you're confused about any of this, go talk to a therapist. Going to a therapist is not admitting defeat, and it's not saying that you are admitting that you have something or don't have something. It's part of the journey of exploring and getting new information and getting experiential information and having someone else look at you. And if you feel like the one therapist is not enough, then go to a different therapist. Collect multiple bits of information. That's what we are good at. We're looking for patterns, and you can only find patterns if you have multiple points of information and data. So that's incredibly important for you to do as an INTP, is continue to make that search and make that happen for you. So another aspect of the confusion of a mood disorder is that our introverted thinking and extroverted intuition are kind of two opposites in a lot of ways. You know, with our introverted thinking, we're very controlled. We know what's going on in our minds. We're very organized internally. And sometimes we can be tough on ourselves. But when we're in extroverted intuition situations, sometimes you can completely let go and just be fun and freeform. And that feels like you're just a completely different person, right? So that dichotomy on its own can really feel like you're experiencing a mood disorder or a big mood shift or something like that, when really it's just part of your personality. So I think it takes a lot of exploration and journey to fill in your context and figure out exactly how that suits you and who you are. But I think at the end of the day, it's about exploration. So if you get the opportunity to talk to a therapist, work with someone, get more information, have experiential context, talk to human beings, and see what they say about you, I think you're going to learn a lot more about yourself that way. So I think that's incredibly important. So it's a challenge to go through life and feel like maybe you're broken or wrong or something's not right about you or you don't fit in or something like that. But at the end of the day, it's about figuring that out for yourself, because it's your journey, and for you to be a creator and be empowered by the notion of the fact that you can take control of your life. So that's everything. If you want to hit up my Cosmic Calibration course, bit.ly/Cosmic Calibration down below, or if you want to check out Dopamine, the podcast where I talk about mental health, creativity, and personality typology, you can go check that out and connect with me at Let's Go C-Note on all the social channels. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, and I'll cover it in a future episode of this YouTube channel thing. And I'll catch you next time on Dopamine. See you guys.